Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm just trying to get started, on this whole maybe podcast thing. I don't know. I don't want to be one of the podcast girlies. I don't know, but we'll see. Um, this conversation is going to be short and sweet, so probably no more than 5-10 minutes. Just kind of sharing my life, I guess. Guess that's where we'll start, and we'll see if we get good at this stuff. Who knows? But new to this, new to the whole like uploading videos, YouTube whole thing. Not sure what I want to do with it. I'm just here, y'all. This is a form of therapy for me almost. So let's just say that. So a little snippet into my life, where I'm at, things like that. So I'm Chantel. Welcome. I'm 33. I am recently divorced. And I am dating. I have no kids. I do have a dog. His name is Remy. He's a black pug. You guys will maybe see him, make his debut on camera soon. But this conversation serves as just kind of the first time I've shared outside of my circle, just, what's been going on in life, and maybe some tips and tools and advice, for somebody who may be in the same boat as me. And so, let's get into it. So, this first conversation, I just wanted to simply be just kind of putting it out there for anybody else who has been married. I would say for a short time, we were only married for 3 years on paper, 2 years in real life. Um, and then there was the separation, and then there was me deciding, like, hey, this isn't what I want. Um, the way, the trajectory of the relationship, of our life, where it was going, I wasn't going to hit there. And so, stepping into that as well, coming from a pretty strict Christian upbringing, not believing in divorce, I only had two deal breakers. Those deal breakers were if you put your hands on me and if you cheated. Like, I know other people or other couples who have gone through adultery or cheating, and they've been able to work through and grow stronger from it, move past it. However, I knew, me personally, that was not something that I wanted as an option in my relationship for myself or my significant other, and that it was something that I probably would never be able to forget. And so those were my only two deal breakers, right? Like, I didn't have any crazy deal breakers like, oh, you leave the toilet seat up, or oh, someone who goes out all the time, or someone who, talks to their mom all the time, mama's boys, things like that. So I had my list, right? However, if we're honest about it, I knew I should not have married the person that I married. However, external pressures, I would say, being 30 at the time, not having kids, and, I was doing my thing. Like, I was traveling. I was in my word. I was in church. I had found, a church outside of the church that I grew up in. I was starting to become active in that. Like, I was in my element, right? Like, I was doing the things that I wanted to do. I was making the money that I wanted to make at the time. And so for me personally, I didn't feel the need to be married. Like, there were, some conversations or some pressures. Like, I had a best friend who was married, but then I also have another best friend who isn't. I had a really good friend who was getting married around the same time. Someone else had got engaged. So that wasn't, the pressure for me, because I definitely, even now, don't mind like being the single friend or the fun friend, because that's who I am, right? So that wasn't the pressure for me. It was more or less the familial pressures of um, being married and having kids, right? Like, that's our whole purpose. It seemed like, as far as growing up, being a young lady in Christ, like, oh, your husband's gonna find you, and you guys are gonna, be fruitful and multiply. So that was the most pressure that I felt, that I would say. And so it was like, okay, here I am in this relationship. Before we got engaged, we had been together for about 3 years. There were a few red flags, which, I'll dive into those on another conversation. But ultimately, a deal breaker was broken. And if we're being transparent, being vulnerable here, he put his hands on me and I put my hands back on him. And so we were at that level, right? Like, at this point. But that didn't just come about. It wasn't like, oh, we're arguing all the time, this, and that. It literally was an addiction also attached to that. And I never saw addiction as a deal breaker for me because of family, right? Again, family. The family I come from, I do have, family members that have been, on the streets, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol. And we never switched up on them, right? Like we never truly really hold them accountable to this day. There is a enablement attached to our family. I would even say our community. That someone who's on drugs, like it's the drugs, it's not them. However, they never truly seek or want help, and we continue to love on them unconditionally, which is great, right? Like you think like, oh yes, like my family is never going to give up on me. My family is always going to be there for me. These are the people who have been there through thick and thin. However, where is the accountability? Where are the boundaries? You can go out there and do and be and say all the wrong things, and then you still have a safe place to land. And that's great, right? Especially at the onset of addiction. A lot of time addiction just comes into people's lives, right? Like they choose it, but however, it's a hard choice, right? Like it's something that happened, and something that they have to learn to deal with. However, um, when do we hold them accountable? And personally, in my family, we never do, right? Like they just continue on this path, this destructive path, and sometimes it just impacts us, and we just have to take it and keep pushing, right? Like they steal from us, they bring crazy people to the house where they're calling at 4 a.m. for money. We give rides, we go pick up, we drop off plates, we do all the things, and we never hold them accountable. So that's the atmosphere that I um, was cultivated in, right? Like this atmosphere of love, but of empathy, of no boundaries, of no accountability when it comes to people and their addictions. And so when it was brought to the forefront that, my husband at the time had an addiction, I was like, I know I don't want to deal with this. Like, I'm not the person. I don't want to have to pay for rehab and be there for you in those dark nights and when you're having withdrawal symptoms and all of those things. And I get it, right? Like, it's thick and thin. Like, this isn't one of the things that I thought I was going to have to deal with. I thought I was going to have to deal with, maybe job loss, loss of a parent, accident, things like that. That's what I thought about, when I got married. Like, okay, what are going to be the highs? What are going to be the lows? Addiction was never one of those because, we had those conversations, I thought. However, I was the only one being honest about when we were having those conversations. And so the addiction reared its head. Jail was involved twice. Never thought I would have to go bail somebody out of jail. I thought I had left the gangster lifestyle behind. But I did twice. So that was a whole different space ordeal for me. And I was ultimately going through this stuff by myself, right? Because I didn't want to admit to my friends who we all newly married, all, talking about starting families, this, and that my husband's a drunk, that he's wrecked 3, 4 cars at this point, that I've had to bail him out of jail not once, but twice, that he's lost several jobs because of this addiction. Those were things, I covered him because, again, atmosphere that I grew up in, you cover your spouse. Like, never would I have ever told anybody outside of the circle, like, the true circumstances, right? Because this is our business. And so that was detrimental to me because I felt isolated. I felt that no one would understand like where I was personally, because here I am in this marriage trying to make it work, trying to be, the strong, supportive wife, trying to live right, right? Like here I am in church every week praying, God deliver them, God help us, God this, God that. Um, and it seems like it's getting worse, like for him, right? Like I was doing great in every other aspect of my life except my marriage. And it was like, I am doing all the things that I'm supposed to. Like, I'm being intentional in my marriage. I'm trying to spend time with him. I'm trying to have these conversations. I'm trying to do date night. I'm doing all the things, right, that they tell us to do. I'm praying for him. I'm praying for us. I'm going to church. I'm paying my tithes. I'm doing everything on the list that you thought, you should do in order to have a successful marriage. And so when it didn't work, I felt like a failure. I was like, I failed. Like, this was my choice and I failed. And to God be the glory for therapy, because like in church, like they do make you still feel like you failed. You didn't fast enough. You didn't pray enough. You're not in your word enough. Oh, and from my parents, or one parent in particular, oh, you need to come back to this particular church, and y'all need to find the Lord and put God first, and all of these things, right? And no one asked, how are you? Whole ordeal. No one really truly sat down besides my therapist to say, like, okay, I hear everything that you're going through, or I see it. Because my skin was toe up, pimples, huge pimples out of nowhere. I had gained crazy weight, like 40 pounds. So y'all see it, but no one's saying anything because, oh, she's married, we'll let them deal with it. No one's checking in on me because I'm seemingly okay. I'm still going to work. I'm still this, but I wasn't myself, guys. And so saying all that to say, like, at the beginning of this like single again journey, I felt like a failure. So when we first like were separated and I was even contemplating the idea of divorce, I was just like, here we go again. Like, I don't want to be out in these streets. I'm tired. And I enjoyed like being married, right? Like the one person to come home to, the one person to have those conversations with, like, regardless if I went out or not, like, I know I have my friend to come home to, or so I thought. And so, again, in retrospect, I'm going to be talking about that part of it too. Like, are y'all truly friends? Like, before you even be engaged, before any of that, the conversations about marriage and family and all of that, are y'all truly friends? Because I know how I am with my friends, and I want that same aspect, or the same respect, humility, love, realness, rawness that I give to my friends. And so when I actually sat back and evaluated it, we were not friends. I don't like you most days. I like you because I have this love for you, that I've grown this love to care for you. But if we stripped all of that away, if we took out, the sex, the flirtation, any of the attraction piece, you as a person, as a human being, do I like you? Would we be friends outside of this? If you had not shown interest in me, would we even be friends? Could we have a conversation? And the answer was a resounding no, guys. Like, my fault, right? Like, I did not like him as a human being. You lie, you try to be this chameleon, but to your detriment, like you were always trying to fit in. And it was so many insecurities there, guys. Like, number one, there was a height insecurity. We just gonna put that out there right now. I'm 5'8", right? So 5'8", pretty tall, for a girl or whatnot. I love my heels, 6-inch heels, definitely. So 6'1", 6'2", on a good day in my heels. And he was like 5'7". He said 5'8". I gave him that. Like, okay, we can be shoulder to shoulder, but my head's a little big, so I'm still a little taller. But yeah, so there was a height issue, and that became an insecurity for him too. Because he started to see, or he found out eventually, like, who my exes were, or what they looked like, or there was a picture here, or somebody recalled a memory or shared a memory, and that became an issue for him. So definitely, if there were anybody, friend group, whatever, that he felt like was my usual type, jealousy reared its ugly head every single time. And it's not that hard for guys to be taller than 5'8". So Yeah, just imagine having a jealous partner pretty much everywhere you go. So we stopped going places. And then there was also the jail aspect, right? You're on probation now, so you can't even go anywhere. And I love to travel, guys. Like I've been to Greece, I've been to Turkey, I've been to the Dominican, you know, of course Vegas, Miami, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. Um I love to travel. I love to have those experiences, make those memories. I'm not a big foodie, but I will eat, you know, I'll try a few things. However, um that was taken away from us because of your choices to drink and drive. And then there was also that you don't care enough about me to care about yourself. And if you don't care about yourself, how in the hell do I expect you to care about me? And again, when I came to grips with that, guys, it was just like, okay, yeah, let's not let's go ahead and end this now, before it gets too bad. And so again, the last straw was definitely the physical aspect. Um, I am not a person who believes that violence is ever the answer. However, I am a person of you push me, you put me in a corner, you gon' you gonna find out. And that's what it was. But again, I feel like it was literally the culmination of all those insecurities coming up. It was this whole probation thing. I had just traveled to Chicago for my birthday. He couldn't go. So I had just came back, you know, and of course, like when you travel with people, there are inside jokes, there are, you know, memories being made, things like that. And he wasn't a part of those. And so I know that there was some jealousy attached to that. And then again, you know, lastly, the alcohol played a part. I had asked him not to purchase alcohol for this particular event. He did purchase a lot of alcohol, champagne, wine, vodka, Hennessy, all of it, y'all. All of it. Mind y'all, he on probation and not even supposed to be buying alcohol. Not even supposed to be in the vicinity of it. Got a breathalyzer in the car, whole nine, but you still at the liquor store. So once I decided to end it, everything came out, y'all. Everything. Spending $20 a day at like the gas station. Found open containers in the trunk of the car. Um, what else? Oh, you were going into debt because you owed. You also didn't tell me, like, I don't know how restitution worked. I don't. I knew when I bailed you out, like it was like 300 for the 3 grand or whatever. Didn't realize you got to pay the 3 grand back. I thought you didn't have to pay that 3 grand back if you go to court, right? That was my understanding. However, no, like that was the cost of his crime. So here we are, about to be like $10,000 in the hole because of choices that you made. You've been jailed twice. You got to pay for a lawyer. You got to do all these things. And where's that money coming from? Because you have now lost 2 jobs. So what we doing? So long story short of it all, I'm back in these streets. However, I do have somebody, y'all gonna meet him too. Y'all gonna meet him too. But it was a process. Now, do I feel like my process was shorter than some other people? Yes. I thought I was crazy. I was like, okay, do I need to sit back down? Do I need to slow down? However, what I realized, and again, through the help of my therapist, what I realized is that I was doing the work that last year of the marriage, right? I had already checked out mentally. I was only here physically. And so I had started to do the work of finding myself, being, you know, myself and by myself while I'm in this marriage, but being by myself, learning to love myself again through this process. Prior to even printing out some divorce papers or finding calling the lawyer, prior to any of that, I was doing the work because I felt like, okay, we're not going to get anywhere together where we both are at this point, because I was at a frustrated, I'm fed up, I'm mad, you know, changes need to happen quickly place. That's where I was, because we were changing, okay, but it was for the worst. And so I made up my mind to do the work on my own, on myself, spiritually, emotionally, physically, whole thing, right? I started doing that before all of this even happened. And so when I did get divorced, of course, there was a good 2 weeks where I was on the couch, guys. Like, I didn't get up. People came by. I was just like, hey, y'all, like, you know, trying to put on my best brave face, cook for them, whole thing. And my brother will attest. Like, my brother, he came, it's going to make me teary. I don't know. But he was the person to truly come and check in on me. Everybody else, it was like words of encouragement, right? But they got their own shit. They got their own life and everything. Whew. I guess it's the first time I'm realizing or really vocalizing that my brother came through for me. But so we're here now, right? Like he came through for me, and now he's in like overprotective mode as I'm like back dating and things like that. He's like, we not going through that again. And we're not. Lesson learned, right? So first lesson for me, and I know people are not gonna agree with this, but like if you have a type or a preference or you know what you're attracted to and what you're not, stick with it. Stick with it, ladies. I get it. I get it, right? Sometimes we be like, our type, we ain't getting nothing but rascals, scrubs, rascals. They ain't doing what we need them to do. That's where I was, right? So my type was definitely tall, right? Like I need you to be like 6'3" at least. And I forwent that, because like, oh, okay, let me try something new. It ain't working. Let me try something new. Let me, talk to a shorter guy. And we see where that ended up. So stick to it. If you have a type, you have a preference. That's just what it is. It's gonna be somebody out there that's the type, that's their preference. That's all I'm gonna say. Secondly, be friends, right? Like truly, 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 truly be friends. Get to know that person in and out, the vulnerable parts, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. But have in your head, like, I want this person to be my friend. Like, yeah, I like you, you look good, like all of that, but like, who are you as a person at your core? Those days that I'm not in love with you, are we still gonna be able to laugh together? Like, that's super, super, super important to me now because that made such a difference. And I feel like it could have made a difference if we were truly friends. We could have laughed, through some situations. But it was like everything was escalated to the 100th power because, like, I don't like you as a human. And so, lastly, what I would say is definitely if the person, for me now, it's not about like sacrificial love, right? And struggle love, I'm over it. I don't want it. I'm not here to build you up. I'm not here to be your stepping stool. I'm not here while you work on yourself. I'm not here for that, and I would hope you're not here for that either. But do I want to build something with somebody? Yes. However, I don't want you building on my back. That's what I'm gonna say right there. But yeah, like lastly, finding somebody who is in tune with themselves already, because it should be a sacrificial love of every day I'm waking up trying to figure out how I can make your day better. And every day you waking up trying to figure out how you can make my day better. And so if we're both so consumed with making each other's day better, guess what? We're going to have some fucking great days. For sure. So that's where I'm at now. And again, I'm gonna try and upload these as I can. Maybe, do several a day so y'all gonna see these outfits. But again, this is just serving as kind of a vocal journal for me. So like it, love it, leave it, whatever. Not here for the comments. But yeah, if you got questions, if you want to know who my therapist was, I'll let you know. And yeah, that's that. Bye, y'all.